Imagine a terrifying scene. Before you lies the vast Red Sea, and behind you, the thunderous chariots of the Egyptian army are closing in. The Israelites, after generations of living in slavery, now stand trembling before a life or death choice. The cries of children pierce the air. Women clutch their little ones tightly in their arms, while the men stare in despair, searching for an escape they cannot find. Amid them, Moses steps forward. There is no fear upon his face. Before the sea of anxious people, he raises his voice with strength. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the salvation of the Lord today. That moment did not merely change the destiny of a nation. It became a symbolic story of faith and deliverance passed down through millennia. At that time, Egypt was a mighty, wealthy, and deeply proud empire. Pharaoh sat upon his throne, and as he saw the Israelites multiplying, fear grew in his heart that one day they might rise up against him. In the terror of losing his power, Pharaoh issued a cruel decree. Every newborn Hebrew boy must be thrown into the Nile. It is said that when this decree was proclaimed, the whole region of Goshen, where the Israelites dwelled, was filled with the sound of weeping. Mothers clutched their children tightly, despairing as though the heavens had fallen. Night after night, the anguished cries of those who had lost their sons echoed throughout the villages. In the midst of this, there was a woman named Jochebed. She had just given birth to a healthy baby boy. The child's eyes were bright, and his cry rang out strong. But by Pharaoh's command, he was not permitted to live. Day after day, Jochebed hid her child in her home, trying desperately to quiet his cries. But she knew she could not hide him forever. Egyptian soldiers patrolled relentlessly, listening for the faintest sound, ready to storm in at any moment. Standing before a choice between life and death, Jochebed did something that seemed almost mad. She wove a basket of reeds, sealing it with tar and pitch to make it watertight. In the dim light of dawn, with tears streaming down her face, she placed her baby in the basket and whispered, "My son, I cannot keep you with me, but I believe the Almighty will keep you for me." She set the basket afloat upon the Nile. Her daughter, Miriam, followed quietly along the riverbank at a distance, her eyes never leaving that small, fragile vessel. The basket drifted gently along the river's current, carrying both a mother's hope and her despair. It is said that many Hebrews who witnessed the scene wept openly. To them, it was at once an image of loss and a symbol of faith. No one could have imagined that the basket would float toward Pharaoh's palace, the most dangerous place of all. Pharaoh's daughter was bathing with her attendants by the river. When she saw the basket, curiosity stirred, and she motioned for it to be brought to her. As the lid was opened, a baby lay inside, sobbing softly. The princess froze. Her heart tightened. She whispered, "Oh, a Hebrew baby." By all reason, she should have cast the child away, but those innocent eyes and that frail cry melted the heart of Pharaoh's daughter. She, raised in royal luxury, had rarely touched the pain of the world beyond. Yet in that very moment, compassion flared within her. She lifted the baby, gently caressing him, and declared, "From this day forward you are mine. I will name you Moses, for I have drawn you out of the water." Her attendants exchanged startled glances, yet none dared object. Beneath the golden sunlight, Moses, the Hebrew child destined to die, suddenly became a prince of Egypt. When the Israelites heard the news, many whispered, "The Lord has acted. From the midst of danger he has brought forth life." Moses grew up in the Egyptian palace, surrounded by the splendor of a mighty empire. It is said that from childhood he wore fine silks, dined on rare delicacies, and studied under the greatest teachers of writing, astronomy, and warfare. In the eyes of the Egyptians, he was a prince, the adopted son of Pharaoh's daughter. But in the eyes of the enslaved Israelites, he carried their blood. And deep within, Moses never forgot his true origin. By day, Moses trained alongside Egypt's young nobles, practicing archery and chariot driving. They called him the heir and marveled at his brilliant mind. But whenever he stepped outside, Moses saw another world. Israelites beaten on the work sites, the crack of whips slicing the air, cries of anguish echoing through the streets. Once, while still a youth, he asked the princess, his adoptive mother, "Moses, why must these people suffer so?" Princess, pausing, "It is their lot in life. The empire stands upon their labor." Moses, "But I feel more like them than like the Egyptians." Princess, sighing, "You belong to two worlds, Moses. One day you will have to choose." Years later, when Moses had become a grown man, that inner conflict burned ever stronger. One sweltering afternoon, he passed by a construction site. Before him, a brutal Egyptian soldier was lashing a weary Israelite slave. The sound of the whip striking flesh cut through the air like a scream. The slave collapsed, gasping, "Please, spare me!" But the soldier roared, "Get up! You are filth! Who gave you permission to rest?" A fire ignited in Moses' eyes. He stepped forward, shouting, "Stop this at once!" The soldier turned, sneering, "You're a prince, so what? These slaves aren't worth the breath they breathe." In that moment, Moses lost all restraint. He lunged, knocking the soldier to the ground. One blow, then another, until the soldier lay motionless. The entire worksite fell silent. The Israelites whispered, He just killed an Egyptian. For us." But almost immediately, fear swept over them. Moses looked at his blood-stained hands, panting. He knew this act would never be forgiven. Moses fled Egypt, crossing barren deserts, scorching by day and bitterly cold by night. Once accustomed to the splendor of the palace, he was now nothing more than a wanderer, with no place to call home. It is said that after many days of hunger and thirst, he arrived in the land of Midian, a foreign place, with customs and people unlike those of Egypt. There he stopped to rest by a well. At the well, Moses saw a group of young women struggling to draw water for their flock, but rough shepherds drove them away and seized the water for themselves. Though exhausted, Moses could not stand by. He stepped forward, his voice firm. "Moses, let them draw water first. They were here before you." A shepherd, "Who are you to give orders?" Without hesitation, Moses used his strength to intervene. He drove the bullies away and drew water for the young women until their flock had drunk its fill. The young women looked at him with eyes of both gratitude and admiration. Among them was Zipporah, daughter of the priest Jethro. When the daughters returned home earlier than usual, Jethro was surprised and asked, "Jethro, why have you come back so soon today?" Zipporah, "An Egyptian man protected us and even drew water for our flock." Jethro replied at once, "Why did you leave him there? Go, invite him to our home." And so Moses was welcomed into Jethro's household. As time passed, he married Zipporah, had children, and lived the quiet life of a shepherd. One day, while leading the flock farther than usual, Moses came near Mount Horeb. There he beheld a strange sight, a bush engulfed in flames, yet not consumed. In astonishment, Moses stepped closer. Then a voice called out from within the fire, "Moses! Moses!" Moses, trembling, "Here I am." Voice, "Do not come closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you stand is holy ground." Moses fell to his knees, his face to the ground. The voice continued, "I am the God of your fathers, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries, and now I am sending you to deliver them." Overwhelmed by the presence, Moses stammered, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? I am only a shepherd in the desert. I cannot speak well. Who will believe me?" The voice thundered, yet carried patience. "I will be with you. Your brother Aaron will speak for you. Take this staff in your hand. With it you will perform signs." Still Moses feared. Moses, "But if they ask, 'What is the name of the one who sent you?' What shall I say?" The flame flared brighter, and the voice replied, "Tell them, I am who I am. I am has sent you." When Moses returned to Egypt, he was no longer the prince he once had been. Together with his brother Aaron, He entered the magnificent palace where Pharaoh sat in majesty upon his throne, golden light shimmering off silver and gold that adorned the room. Aaron spoke on behalf of Moses. "The Lord, the God of Israel, says, 'Let my people go, that they may worship me in the wilderness.'" Pharaoh raised an eyebrow, his gaze full of contempt. "The Lord, the God of Israel? I do not know him. Why should I obey? The Israelites are slaves of Egypt, and they will remain here forever." The air in the throne room grew heavy. Guards gripped their spears tightly while courtiers snickered. Pharaoh gave a commanding decree. From now on, the slaves must gather their own straw, yet produce the same number of bricks. Let them see that worship is nothing but an excuse for idleness. The Israelites suffered worse than ever, and many turned against Moses. But Moses prayed, and the Lord said, "You will see my power. Pharaoh will know that I am the Lord." The next day, Moses and Aaron stood by the Nile. While Pharaoh watched the rivers flow, Moses lifted his staff. Instantly, the waters turned to blood. Fish floated dead on the surface, and a vile stench filled the air. The Egyptians panicked. Pharaoh scowled but hardened his heart. "My magicians can do the same. I am not afraid." Then frogs overran the land. From the splendid palace to Pharaoh's own bed, from cooking pots to dining tables. When Pharaoh could bear it no longer, he pleaded, "Pharaoh, pray to your Lord to remove the frogs, and I will let your people go." But once the plague ceased, he broke his word. Wave after wave of disaster struck like relentless blows against Pharaoh's pride. Dust turned into gnats, biting everywhere on both man and beast. Swarms of flies filling the skies, turning Egypt into a living nightmare. A plague on livestock. Cattle and horses dying in droves, Egypt's economy shaken. Boils, breaking out on Egyptian skin, from the lowest servant to Pharaoh himself. Hailstorms, smashing crops, trees splintered and fields devastated. Yet Pharaoh remained stubborn, pleading in moments of terror, then turning away when calm returned. Then came the next plague. Locusts, darkening the sky, devouring what little remained after the hail. A thick darkness, covering Egypt for 3 days, so deep that people could not see one another nor move from their place. And still, even as Egypt plunged into chaos, Pharaoh would not yield. At last, Moses stood before Pharaoh and declared, "If you refuse to let my people go, then every firstborn in Egypt, from your own son upon the throne to the son of the slave at the mill, will die." Pharaoh, enraged, pointed at him. "Get out of my sight! If you dare come before me again, you will die." And then the final plague descended. In a single night, a wail of grief arose across Egypt. From Pharaoh's palace to the poorest huts, every firstborn lay dead. Even Pharaoh's heir did not escape. Those who witnessed it said Egypt had never drowned in mourning so deep. Families wept. Cries echoed through the cities. Pharaoh, crushed by unbearable sorrow, "Go, leave my land, you and your people. Go, worship your Lord. Only go now and go far away." Egypt was drowned in mourning. The people, terrified, urged the Israelites to leave as quickly as possible. Some even brought them silver, gold, and clothing, desperate only for them to go and for the suffering to end. Moses gathered the people, men, women, children, along with their livestock. Hundreds of thousands departed Egypt that day. They left in such haste that they had no time to bake leavened bread, only unleavened bread to carry as food for the journey. One sacred detail. They took with them the bones of Joseph, the patriarch who had charged generations earlier. "When the Lord delivers you out of Egypt, carry my bones with you." That day, slaves became a free people. The air was heavy with hope, mingled with fear. But in the palace of grief, Pharaoh sat upon his throne, and once again his heart hardened. He roared at his officials. "What have we done? We've let our labor force go. No, they will not be free. Ready the chariots. We will pursue them and bring them back." At once, over 600 of Egypt's finest chariots were mobilized, along with horsemen and a mighty army. The thunder of hooves shook the earth. Dust clouds darkened the sky. When the Israelites reached the edge of the Red Sea, a deep rumble grew behind them. Looking back, they saw the storm of chariots descending like a tempest. Cries of despair swept through the camp. A man shouted, "We're doomed. Better to have stayed slaves than to die here." Another wailed, "Moses, why did you bring us out of Egypt? Was it only to die in this wilderness?" But Moses stood firm in their midst, his eyes unwavering. His voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. "Do not be afraid, stand your ground, for today you will see the Lord's deliverance. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again." That night, a mighty wind blew across the waters. The sea began to part, the waters rising high, towering like massive walls on either side. A dry path stretched deep through the heart of the sea. Moses lifted his staff, its silhouette fierce in the moonlight. The Israelites stood frozen, many weeping, not from fear, but from awe at the sheer power of the Almighty. Group by group, they stepped into the seabed. They walked between walls of roaring water. The sea foamed and thundered beside them, yet did not collapse. Children clung tightly to their parents' hands. The elderly moved forward, whispering prayers under their breath. When the last of Israel had entered the passage, Pharaoh and his army charged in after them. Horses screamed, soldiers shouted, chariots clattered like thunder as they plunged into the dry path, determined to seize the fleeing slaves. But as they pressed deeper, the wheels of their chariots bogged down. Horses reared in panic. Soldiers cried out in confusion. Some shouted, "The Lord is fighting for Israel. We must flee." In that moment, Moses lowered his staff. Instantly, the walls of water crashed back into place. The sea roared, swallowing chariots, riders, and Pharaoh himself. Screams, neighing horses, the clash of iron, and then silence. The Red Sea had closed it behind them. The Israelites, after centuries of slavery, now stood on the far shore, legs trembling, but hearts overflowing with joy. They looked at one another, clutching their children, tears streaming down their faces. They danced, clapped, and sang without ceasing. This was not merely a celebration of escaping danger, but a proclamation. The Lord is our strength and our song. Moses, too, lifted his own song, solemn in tone, directed to the entire people. After years of suffering under oppression, the Israelites needed something to bind them together, to heal their fear, and to give them strength for the journey ahead. The story of Moses is not only a religious event, but a testament to the strength of the human spirit. When faith meets courage, freedom is born. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep bringing you more amazing videos like this one.